Hello and welcome to MOTH News Live. My name is Keith Walsh and we have Al in the studio with us. Al, you're going to have to sit there, be really quiet, don't move, don't say a word, don't even cough. I got to do the news in brief. And I have my news here, but as we go to air, we have some breaking news from North Dublin. Very sad news. Gardaí, excuse my laptop, but it's breaking news. Gardaí have confirmed that human remains have been discovered in Donabate as part of the search for missing 7-year-old Daniel Arabos. The remains were found yesterday, and Gardaí say they will now undergo DNA analysis to confirm identification. The discovery is being treated with sensitivity, as it should be, and Gardaí are working with the local coroner. Daniel, who was known to have lived in Donabate, had not been seen for several years. This is important. Concerns about his welfare were raised to Gardaí by the child and family agency TUSLA just last month. He's been missing for 7 years. It has since emerged that TUSLA had previous involvement with Daniel's family between 2017 and 2020, but those supports ended and there were no confirmed sightings of the boy for years. So if he's missing for 7 years, TUSLA were involved with the family in 2020. That's only 5 years ago. So a lot of very interesting questions to be asked around this. The case is already raising very serious concerns about how children at risk are monitored in Ireland, the role of TUSLA, and what oversight exists when contact with a family ends. We will be discussing this and wider issues around this with Al in a moment, and also we'll have Majella from Care Champions on with us, right? The rest of the news, you probably saw this already. Cork mother Antoinette Burke confronting Taoiseach Micheál Martin on the street over her daughter Katie's care. Can we have a look at that clip there, please?
And I can't stand by when you are all standing here, you're going in there to talk about healthcare, and this is your legacy. Yeah. This is 15 years on the 24th of this month. Katie be waiting on surgery. Now, your secretary has all Katie's files because I sent them. She said she informed you. I don't know whether she did or not. I've spoken to Simon Harris. He's ignored me. I've requested meetings with you, Simon Harris, Jennifer Carter-McNeil. She told me under the Governance Act that she cannot tell anybody in the HSE to help Katie.
No, what we can do.
If that is the case, why do you have a Minister for Health?
Well, the Minister for Health
because my daughter is suffering.
I know, but the problem is
country.
Clearly, so for some reason, the clinical people, the consultants, made a judgment.
But if they had have operated on Katie when she was 4.
And they don't believe, for some reason they didn't.
But she wouldn't be now needing a hip replacement.
I mean, I really don't understand why a man in his position can't just say, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that this has happened to you. Like, first of all, he's thrown the consultants under the bus. But why can't Micheál Martin say, I'm really sorry, and hug the lady and tell her he'll do his best to figure it out? But that is we'll talk about this in a moment. This is the attitude we have as a society because they represent us towards our most vulnerable in this country. Presidential pitches begin in Dublin. City Council has started to hear pitches from those hoping to contest the Áras an Uachtaráin race. Early momentum is building, politics is heating up, and public expectations are growing. We will get into that more. We're currently finalising some experts to come on and talk to us about that, and we will keep an eye on that very closely. The UN says Israel's war in Gaza may be genocide. I think they've said it's quite close. When you see the BBC saying it's genocide, we can all relax and go, okay, it's genocide. UN inquiry has concluded that Israel's war in Gaza may amount to a genocide. That conclusion has sparked fierce debate globally and here in Ireland, of course. And there's been strong public sympathy for Palestine, obviously in Ireland, with our previous history and allegiance to countries like Palestine and countries trying to colonize them. The findings will likely add momentum to boycott campaigns and fuel already heated political arguments. And the thing is, we must remember, this is not the people of Israel. This is a man called Netanyahu, who is a genocidal maniac, and we're not against Israel. We're not for or against anybody, but what's happening to the people of Palestine is terrible. And there's many, many people in Israel who are very much against what's going on. So just, to put that out there, a lot of the time, the country, the people get blamed, around, and it's a lot of the time it's the authorities. Social Democrats and a blackface row in Cork. Yeah, a TD has apologised after photos emerged of him wearing blackface for a fancy dress party years ago. Party leader Holly Cairns called the costume indefensible. The story highlights how politicians respond. How they respond matters. I mean, I want to talk to Al about this as well, and we might just go to Al now. Do we have some pictures? We have some images of our this member of this is Owen Hayes. Which one's which? So we got Barack Obama and Owen Hayes. Al, thoughts? I mean, so Owen Hayes,
first cousins.
Owen Hayes has been in trouble before. My question is, so people are calling for him to step down. He's been in trouble before. He's not doing himself any favors. And I wonder, so I was talking to a friend of mine about, do you remember the guy who did the impression, Bo Selecta? And he used to dress up. Now I think he had rubber masks, if I remember, but he did Michael Jackson, he did Mel B, he did whatever. And at the time I was like, blackface is terrible. And then they said, well, did you watch Bo Select? And I was like, oh, that was hilarious. And then I went, oh yeah, okay. So like at the time, we were all saying, yee. I wouldn't do it now, not in blackface. But it made me think, actually, is it unfair? I mean, I can't understand how anyone, when Barack Obama was in power, thought it would be okay to put makeup on and be a black person. Like that's not that long ago. I mean, that's a bit stupid, but should he be sacked over it, or is he allowed to say, I'm sorry, and all's forgiven, as long as he doesn't do it again?
Yeah, I think we're falling into the same trap as we always do, which is deflection. So we've got Simon Harris, who was like blatantly, showboating himself in an Oasis concert. That's gone to like, nothing. And then we bring up something that's, deflected over here. But the reality is we have to start like behaving like it's a domino effect. Dominoes, you click and it starts falling. So we have to stop getting distracted by what is actually happening, which is from the top down, the entire government and the leadership, politicians globally are failing citizens. So first one is Simon Harris, get the fuck out of Dodge. Resign. You're an absolute disgrace. Micheál Martin. I mean, if Roy Keane was commentating here, he'd say you're some langer, which people from Cork will just understand. So let's get into the real crux of what's happening here. Okay, a guy, blackface, yeah, disgraceful. Like,
but your point is this is going to take up valuable space.
It's taking up airtime off the real issues, which is like the politicians are representing the people. And when they cease to represent people, and they become a sideshow, that's when they're out of a job. Like if we run a company the way people are running the countries right now, you'd be fucking fired. So like we have to start bringing in this caveat of when you're elected, if you don't deliver on these key points, which is you're a disgrace, like that's the only word for this guy, he's disgraceful behavior, right? You get sacked. There should not be even a discussion around will you resign or won't you resign. It's like if I don't know how many people, it was like, 2,000 or 3,000, maybe more, signed a petition to say you need to resign.
Yeah.
Right? Like one person signed a petition that voted you or was an elected, like you're an elected official. If one person says, I've got something on you and somebody seconds it, like if you're in a board meeting and you're running a company and somebody says, I vote that I've voted no confidence in you and somebody seconds it from a shareholder, you're fucking out of there.
If you look at the guy, the CEO at the Coldplay concert,
yeah, exactly, gone.
Yeah. So it's not. It shouldn't even be a question. And what you're saying is that this is an example of how we like that. That's a no-brainer. Yeah.
I'm just thinking of a war room. It's like spitting image, or we need to focus on the job. But it's like spinning image of Monty Python, right? We're all sitting in a room, right? Okay, how do we get the attention off Simon Harris? Find dirt in somebody. Oh, here's a picture of this guy, it's blackface. Let's put that in the media. And then you've got the mainstream media that are like absolutely pathetic. Oh, let's focus on that now. But let's not distract from what's happening here. You've got useless leaders that need to fucking step out of these positions because they're failing. That's it.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
So if he's so what we have is him masquerading as a black man, and we have several politicians masquerading as leaders.
Yeah, just get out of there.
Get them all out.
Done. Wankers.
Yeah. Anybody in government involved, elected official pretending to be anybody.
I saw a movie the other day, right, of Vinnie Jones, Love Him or Loathe Him, right? But I think he's fucking brilliant. Like if you said him, Lewis would be like, right, CUNT, out of here, gone, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I get it as well. Like you're distracting from. We're here to do a job.
Yeah.
And this is all distraction. So we need to
P45, pink slip,
and that should be understood.
Done.
I mean, that guy should be gone already because of.
But
his
it shouldn't even get
investments
to the media. If this was 20 years ago, somebody say, "Hey, there's a story breaking on you. Resign before it gets out."
Yeah.
Like if you think back in time, we didn't know half of the shit these guys were up to, because if it was a sniff of a journalist was onto something, an investigative journalist, which is a fucking laughing stock at this stage, because like those two words can't even go together anymore, right?
Yeah, we don't.
The journalists are just patsies, and that's it. They're spin doctors, right? And if an investigative journalist went to somebody like Watergate, for example, it's like, we have this, it's going to break. Everybody is out of there before it even breaks. They're all because they would not risk bringing the government into disrepute.
Yeah, we got to get out ahead of this. You got to leave.
Whereas we seem to have, like, they're embracing disrepute at this bitch because they're fucking idiots.
If you haven't done blackface, you're not getting into. You're not going to be elected.
But our
if you haven't done something disgraceful, there's no
our
hope.
own people have to take accountability because they keep fucking electing them. It's like,
but then you're saying, but it's the journalism. Then we don't have the journalists. They don't have any teeth. So there's no accountability. So the news cycle moves on, and then there's some other guy pulling his pants down in Phoenix Park or something, and that's the story.
Well, if we take it at its height and say, where are we right now? We're in the era of false information, social media, mainstream media is farcical, and we're into like the herd mentality and steroids, because there isn't any other information out there for people to view, right? Outside of alternative media. Yeah. Or journalists that won't like assimilate or follow the company line, as they call it, right? So then the general population have only the information that's in front of them because they're not getting the real information. So they can't even make a decision anymore what's real and what's not real.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we shouldn't even be here, should we? We should be off doing something. You should be off venting something.
Hanging out, having margaritas on the fucking beach. Did you drink margarita?
Well, I used to. Too many. I had to stop. That's why.
What are you afraid of? I wrecked it for myself. That's cheap tequila, man. Cheap tequila. You got to stay away from it.
Yeah, got to get the good stuff. The one with the worm at the bottom. And eat the worm.
I'm sure that means something else somewhere else. We got to redact that.
Yeah, sorry. But then when we look at Antoinette Burke, the mothers, when a mother is waiting 15 years for an operation for her child, 15 years, that's the life of a child. And now she needs a hip operation. Like now it's getting worse, and she has to talk to the Taoiseach, who she just knew he was going to be somewhere. She's to doorstep him because she's just not able to get answers, and nobody is able to help her. Like that's where we are. And even his response, like why can't the fact that he's getting, like, you're right, because he'll get away with it. He's not even going, I'm really sorry. Are you okay? I'll make it a priority. Like basic PR.
I have studied psychotherapy and relation management, right? So it's like 101 of the curriculum is understanding people and you're co-creating, collaborating. If you look at his body language, and then like we haven't broke it down, but if you look at it, just as an objective.
Yeah, we can play it again there.
So if you look at even how he's treating her, body language, right? So as she's speaking with him, he's looking at this fictitious piece of paper. Like he's not engaged with her, he's not making eye contact with her, he's not mirroring her action, right? So if you're
play a bit of it there,
you can just see it here.
I can't stand by when you are on stand here. You're going there to talk about healthcare, and this is your legacy.
Text.
This is 15 years of the 24th.
So what you're saying is, like, even
he should be waiting on surgery.
Disinterested.
He doesn't want to know. Secretary has on 25 because I said to him, she said she informed you. I don't know whether she did or not.
What he's going to receive.
I've spoken to Simon Harris. He's ignored me.
So he's not in the conversation.
I've requested meetings with you.
He's not saying, right,
Simon Harris, Jennifer Carter McLean, She
keeps
told me
interrupting because
under
he's got,
the
I'm going
Governance
to say
Act
this,
that she
and I
cannot
really
tell
don't
anybody in the
agree
HSE
what you're saying
to
to
help
me,
Katie.
because I'm going to already.
No,
So,
we can't do
no,
it.
if that is the case,
By the way, he's
why do you
responsible
have a
for
Minister
healthcare.
for Health?
But the Minister
Because
can
my
assess
daughter
it,
is
yeah.
suffering.
Ultimately,
I know, but
he's
the problem
this
is,
country.
clearly,
he's
so
paying
for
their
some
fucking
reason,
salary, right?
the
And
clinical
he's looking
people,
at
the
it, public
consultants,
consultants bit is like,
made a
Yeah, but
judgment.
if they
then fire
had
them, 'cause
operated on
But they don't,
Katie
yeah, but they
when
don't
she
believe
was
they,
what we're left
4,
with is
and they don't believe, for
she
some reason they
wouldn't be
didn't.
getting, no, but she
lack
wouldn't be
of no
now
accountability
needing
and
a hip
responsibility.
replacement.
So therefore, why would a bad actor or a useless fucking politician feel accountable?
But where's the so there's a serious lack of humanity or empathy in this country. Is that like do you think that's coming from the top down? That we're looking at why are we looking at that? Why is he getting away with that? There's no empathy. There's no humanity. He's not looking at her like a person. Like he's no better than her. They're on the same level. Like she shouldn't be. It's not like it's as if she's like a fly in his soup or something. Like she needs to look at her. He needs to look her in the eye and go, "Tell me what's going on with you." Like you would if you met a friend and they're going, "My daughter's not well and I can't do," and you'd try and help them, wouldn't you? Like that's what people do for each other, and it's serious lacking because he is in that suit. He sees himself as, well, I'm Taoiseach. I'm not human. We want a human Taoiseach.
But if you use an anecdotal story, if we kind of went to what's morality and what's ethics, right? And lots of people have different answers to that. So if you think of it in a very simple term of phrase, it's doing the right thing when nobody is looking.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So from a politician perspective, right now, there is nobody looking.
Because they're not being held to account.
They're not being held accountable.
So they feel like
you're depending on their ethics to
Yeah.
do the right thing. And clearly that's lacking. So I'm going deeper than what you're saying. I think it's just it's somewhere between incompetence and lack of ethics. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to describe it.
So it's almost a decision to behave like that. Or
It's do whatever the fuck you want,
do whatever
because
you
there's no
want.
accountability.
Do whatever the fuck you want. Okay. Politics. I've never heard of it before. It's new. We've invented something.
Well, if somebody said to him, "You're not going to get your salary at the end of the month if you act a maggot,"
yeah,
then he might start changing his behavior, right?
Yeah. And I presume in the business world, the CEO, if the company is losing money and spending treble what they were supposed to spend on this new build, say a children's hospital, for example, like he'd be fired very quickly. Yeah.
Well, if your employees came into one room and said, "You're useless," how long would you last?
Me, I do the Roy Keane thing. Just walk away and go, "I don't want to be here if you don't want me."
You're some langer.
like Roy Keane says,
You're getting into Saipan now, man.
Well, as Roy Keane says, I don't want a contract because
well, it depends where you're from. If you're from Dublin, Mick McCarthy never admitted he was wrong, so you're not sure. If you're from Dublin, maybe you wouldn't. But look, I can't speak for Micheál Martin. Maybe he was born in Dunleary or something.
We're all on Roy's side. I'm not from Cork, but I'm a Roy fan. Can we look at this this terrible, sad story where they found the remains of a child in Donabate? They're looking for missing 7-year-old Daniel Horribos. So he lived in Donabate. He hadn't been seen in several years. I mean, that alone, when you read that they found the skeletal remains of a child who was missing for 7 years, you think, okay. And then you read that Tusla had contact with that family 5 years ago. So that child wasn't in the home for 2 years and wasn't there when Tusla had whatever contact they had. The Gardaí handed over this and made Tusla aware of it, and Tusla started looking into it. There has been a search for the child, and we just finding out now that they found remains of a boy in Donabate. I mean, if we look at examples of children who've slipped through the cracks, right, over the years in Ireland, we've got Daniel McAnaspey, 2010, 17-year-old from Blanchardstown. His body was found in a ditch after being murdered by 2 men he met while in care. The Grace case we've spoken about on here, that's a pseudonym for a young woman with intellectual disabilities in a foster care. We can see there's a case that we've talked about, I won't get into it now, which is very similar to the Grace case happening right now under our noses. even as the government are apologising for the Grace case. We've got the Brandon report, a child with intellectual disabilities left in foster care in the west of Ireland despite knowledge that the foster carer posed a risk of sexual abuse. We've got baby Annabelle, died of severe head injuries after being returned to her parents from voluntary care. Jeffrey Shannon did a report in 2012, examined 196 deaths of children known to the HSC between 2000 and 2010, found widespread failings, poor interagency communication. This is a big problem, interagency communication. Accountability again. Lack of follow-up, overstretched social work teams. Many of the children had died by suicide, drug misuse or neglect. And then Amy Barrett in 2009, a 7-year-old girl who died in foster care in Wexford following neglect and poor oversight. The case highlighted inadequate monitoring of foster placement. So we've got, that's the whole foster family area there, that we just don't seem to have proper oversight on that. You know, we know there's been cuts since 2008. 30 million has been taken away from these services. And you're looking at facts like some of these counsellors working for TUSLA have 50 families, 50 children to look after. That's not like, I think the advised amount is somewhere closer to 12 or something like that. Like it's not even fair to blame, you know, we shouldn't blame the counsellors or the people who are on the ground. There's nothing they can do. They can only do so much. It's just an example of funding being pulled from somewhere. Children are going missing and we don't care. Is it Ireland doesn't care? Are we okay with children going missing? Why is this allowed to happen? Why was that Shannon report? Why was there 186 cases for him to look at?
Unfortunately, I can't plead ignorance is bliss in this one, because I worked extensively on a project previously where I invented a technology to prevent child and human trafficking, right? And I met with 2 organizations in Ireland, not-for-profit or not-for-profit, okay, who were the epicenter of ensuring that there was a follow-up in the case of something occurring to a minor within care. So they were like the unofficial governing body of TUSLA, right? And during that process, I met with people at a very senior level. Scarily, one of them ended up being the person that was in the media for, you know, being involved with some kind of child pornography images and stuff, right? As you know, that was a case that was swept. His name has been deleted from my mind intentionally because I had
you'll say it,
yeah,
and then we'll all be in trouble.
Exactly. And during that process, it was very clear to me as we were stepping through to assist with technology, and we were doing this at our own expense,
yeah.
Right? That even with that discussion, they did not have the resources to invest in the project because they were not for profit, they were part-timers. There was one organization which was an extension of the department that it was supposed to be governing, right? And funded by that department. So that's a whole different fucking Pandora's box and a bag of worm, a bag of crap that we can open up at some stage, right? When we have resources to do so. But the reality is that you have a governing body that is outside the police force, Gardaí, right? That's assigned with the management of the care and ownership of the care of our most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Budget cuts, which you can speak to, under-resourced, lack of skill. No, I'm not being facetious, but the reality is they're not even trained or equipped correctly, because how could they be? They're not part of. They haven't gone through, you know, police enforcement or you know, Gardaí training. They're not equipped to deal with a book of evidence, but yet the onus is on them to create a book of evidence when a kid goes missing. So I'm not at least now shocked to hear that a human being, a kid, has been missing for that amount of time undetected. And then, you know, as we spoke earlier, I draw your attention to, like, you know, Madeleine McCann, horrific story everywhere, global communication on this issue. I've been traveling and I didn't even know about this until you mentioned it today.
Do you think it's a class thing? Do you think it's working class, like vulnerable? Like if you look at Madeleine McCann, global story, huge and shocking, and probably partly a global story because, you know, we've all been on holidays, we've all had our children, you know, on holidays with us, and like that's shocking to imagine that, you know, I mean, not many of us would go for a
Well,
meal
it's the
and leave our
paradox, right?
children.
There isn't kids that are kids of doctors in Tulsa.
Yes.
So it's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Right?
So nobody cares about them.
Well,
Or is there
clearly
something more nefarious going on? Like if you look at Noah, if you look at the two names that come to mind is Kyron, I think is how, or Kieran Kyron, how you pronounce his name. Noah, and these are in the north of the country. You look at those two cases where they know the child is what's happened to the child, and the parents can't get answers. They're being blanked. Like so somebody's being like, if you were, when there's no transparency, that's when the conspiracy theories start, right? Maybe they're not conspiracy theories, but if you leave a vacuum and you don't have transparency and you won't answer questions and you won't answer, a poor mother just wants to know what happened to her child, then it leads you to believe there's something weird going on and people are being protected and are like these conversations and are allowed to happen like a high-powered person. Like, I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm saying just be more accountable. The authorities need to be more accountable, or else we start believing weird things are going on.
Well, the contradiction to that is it's not that nobody cares, it's that the people that care that are trying to get the information isn't available. There's no escalation path. So if you take the benign view of it, it's, you know, accidental malice in terms of the system is set up that you can't get a successful outcome when something happens or occurs. Or if you take the pessimistic view, it's set up so you cannot get an escalation because it's a cover-up. So like, but regardless of that, and you know, we get into this conversation of they should or they shouldn't or they couldn't, but the reality is, again, it goes back to the leadership. They have not built a process in place in a democracy or in a country where they're protecting their most vulnerable citizens and somebody who cannot defend for themselves. That's the failing. So regardless of, we're getting into this witch hunt of politicians or the mainstream media, but if you just deal with the data, I'm a data guy, right? So what's the data? It's failing. Stop the bullshit and stop blaming each other and just look at the issue.
Why it's failing.
Like, just fucking fix it. Like, kid missing, not communicated. It's not a countrywide, you know, look at the Gardaí, fucking Phil Brendan Gleeson, send out an APB, we've got to find somebody. Like, where is the escalation, Pat? You go into the US, Walmart, wall-to-wall pictures. I don't know if you've been in the States lately. You know, missing person, date, contact this number, posters up on the wall. It's on milk cartons, right? But we just seem to have this nonsense in Ireland where somebody can just make a decision. I don't know what department it sits on, the Department of, you know, Childcare or Children's Health, Children Affairs, right? And DOJ, and say somebody has made a decision that because we don't have enough resources in the Gardaí or police force, we're going to bat it into civil servant department that have no resources also. So somebody made that decision.
Yeah. But nobody's making the decision. We took 30 million out of caring for our most vulnerable children in this country. We need to put it back in because it's not working. Do you know what I mean? If you make a decision in a business to take money out of one department for some reason, and then that department is completely collapsing, you've made a mistake.
But they'll find $1 billion for IPAS centres.
And how much for a children's hospital? Do you know the irony of it? Well, there's going to be no children left because they'll all fall through. We don't know where they are. So who are you going to fill the children's hospital with? Expensive trolleys, I suppose.
Well, their strategy is that by the time they finish the child hospital, everybody will be teenagers, so then they don't have to fucking look after them. Right?
It'll suddenly just... It's actually an adult's hospital.
What a fucking idiot. Like, seriously.
We've no children. We should have Majella there on the line. Majella, sorry, thank you very much for waiting, because I think that this is a good time to talk to you. You've probably been listening to our conversation.
Yes, how are you?
How are you, Majella, first of all?
Good, good. I have a dog that just had surgery behind me, so if you see me moving funny, it's just I have a little doggy behind me.
I bet he got looked after better than some of the humans in this.
Oh my God. I was saying I'd like to sign up myself as a patient. Unbelievable. Literally an MRI, CT. He broke a ligament in his knee, or he literally very same day, MRI, CT, no trolleys, no nothing.
Consultants causing problems.
The whole surgical suite, like, oh wow, anything. we've nothing in comparison for people, for sure.
Yeah, maybe we should all go to the vet the next time. I think that's you probably do better. I mean, you know, I can do a good dog impression that would get me through an operation. This one seems to have thumbs, but we'll operate nonetheless. So Majella, like, I mean, all joking aside, like talking about, I know I contacted you because of Antoinette Burke, and but now we've seen the you know, they found the remains of this child who's been missing for 7 years, and there's more to that. We've spoken to you before about care homes, care champions. You have you deal with the families of loved ones who have been mistreated in our care facilities, services. This is like, when you look at Micheál Martin's response to the mother, this is how the government look at people that you, like yourself, and the people in care champions that you talk to daily. Like, I don't even know what the number is that you have to deal with, but this is how the government and authorities look at people who have been mistreated by our country, by them.
Yeah, and you know, I think, and I know Antoinette got a phone call today from the Taoiseach. I saw her on Twitter earlier, and he's arranging a meeting for her. But that meeting would never have been organised, only that she managed to catch him in front of the media.
Yeah.
And I think she was, and she's an extraordinary lady. I don't know her, but she was extraordinary. And I felt, looking at the whole scene, very predictable how the Taoiseach responded. You know, it is the nature, it's the culture of our systems to try and sweep things under the carpet and make them go away and ignore people. So it's not surprising that he didn't want to look at her. He probably, for him in that moment, he was thinking, I don't want to have a Simon Harris moment like what Simon had when he met the carer. You know, I would imagine he was trying in his own head. He wasn't even hearing her. And then Mary Butler jumping in to act as the bodyguard nearly. And thankfully, and Antoinette was quick enough to say, sorry, you told me 2 years ago that you would meet with me and you haven't even acknowledged us. And sadly, I felt that line is the crux of all our experiences, be it ourselves in older person services when there's failure and harm, be it the children and the children's hospital and that whole catastrophe with CHI. And then you've got the like, we've had the hips, we've had the springs and spines. Everybody, as a family who's dealing with a crisis, if you've got a sick child or an adult or somebody who's experienced harm or has been failed by the system, initially you're in a big whirlwind, you're fighting on your own. You've got your child, your parent, your loved one, whoever it may be, and you want what's best for them. You're seeing them in pain. You're seeing that something awful has happened and nobody will help you. So the stress of that, apart from the direct impact to the person, you know, in this case, a child who's not reaching their full potential, who's living in pain, whose education has most likely been affected and whose future has been affected. You have the impact then on the family and the financial cost, the emotional cost. And it's a really hard thing on your own. And I suppose without social media, before the social media period, it was standard that we'd all these families across the country in all these different areas of healthcare or social care, and they were fighting a system on their own. And I think social media in some way brought us all together and brought family groups together. And I think in all the awfulness that's coming out, you know, the failures in Tusla, the lack of accountability, the lack of oversight, I think the one thing that's positive, possibly, that's coming out of this is really strong family parent groups who are standing up and they're taking the lead and saying, we know what's wrong because we have lived these failures. It's our children that has failed. Like CHI have been shouting for the families, the scoliosis families have been so active. Harvey himself was active with his parents, and yet we've lost him.
Yeah.
You know, so it's those families who are leading the way. And, you know, what we actually need now, we need our opposition to actually really, in a united fashion, force the government to start communicating directly with these family groups, with these parents, and with people with lived experience. Like, we're going round in circles as we are. Like, our own experience in Care Champions during the pandemic, which is continuing still. You know, we had the horrific prime time earlier on the summer. And then this week we have HICWA in the court in a nursing home in Laois, where they wanted closed immediately because there's a serious risk of to life, to 3 people, one of whom has died. So where are the lessons and where is the outcry? That story about HICWA in the court on Friday, yesterday or Friday, in some of the days just gone by, where is the outcry? You know, we've become blind, I think, and we've become so used to these horrific failures, we're not hearing them. There's uproar today because this beautiful little boy that was missing for so long in the system was found. But by next week, that's going to be gone. We've become nearly desensitized to all these awful failures, and there's no accountability. And, you know, I suppose I've been listening in the last week or two to a lot of interviews around Leo Varadkar's book. I don't want to buy it, but I know there's a lot in it about the pandemic, which obviously relates to us. So I have been listening to podcasts and interviews, and, you know, a couple of things that stood out to me is he said Micheál Martin told him not to resign over the Marion Catherine Savone event that they went to and they broke the rules. So to me, as somebody who was horrifically failed during the pandemic and all our families, while the government was saying to us, you're not allowed to see your loved one, we would try, if some people tried to fight to get in to see their loved one, guards were often rang to remove them if they had any sort of concerns. But in the background to that, we have Leo Varadkar now confirming, who at certain point of the pandemic was Taoiseach, now declaring he doesn't know how NEFIT came to be. He doesn't know who gave the go-ahead on it. It just came to be all of itself. Like it just, it clicked fingers and magic into thin air.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because we're finding out that it's actually the civil servants, right? Senior civil servants make decisions in this country, and we don't really know what the role of the politician is anymore. I mean, that's the way it seems to be. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, and then, like, you know, on the back of Leo and all of that, I was kind of trying to refresh my memory because so much has happened. So I was just doing a bit of a Google search, and it brought me to so just at the end of 2020, before we went into the horrific third wave, in which we lost an enormous amount of people, and a lot of our families were affected. So at that time, Micheál Martin, who was Taoiseach at that point, before he brought in the Meaningful Christmas, we were all locked down in level 5. We couldn't get to win. Now, this is actually the time that my own mother was dying.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, we were at that time, we were also doing everything we were told. The office of the Taoiseach contacted the boxing club in Cork, and they organised an event. Permission was given to override the rules for Micheál Martin to have an event to celebrate his father, some award around his father's boxing. And the Ditch actually published a video at that time. And I was looking back at the video, and I don't know is it that so much has happened since, or whether or not this was, you know, in and around my own time with my own mother.
Yeah, you were acutely aware of what was going on.
It was nearly like it was new to me.
Oh yeah, you weren't aware of stuff that was happening outside of your mother dying. Yes,
possibly. And I thought I had researched everything to do with the pandemic, but in the video that the Ditch had released, Micheál Martin is telling the guards who was taking the photograph with them to take off their masks. Now, the contradiction of that and what we were going through, why was he and this event for his father, and where no rules apply, apart from breaking the fact that none of us were allowed to have any gatherings at all, apart from the fact that at that specific moment that he was there was people, without doubt, begging to get to a hospital, crying to get to a window. It was November, it was crappy weather. People standing in rain, trying to get an eye in at their mother or father, brother or sister dying. But Micheál Martin was allowed, and it was okay, that he could have a public event to celebrate his father, something to do with his father's boxing thing, and some trophy to do with his father, have all these people there. And he was, even though they were saying that the rules are so important to you and me and everybody else in society, no, take off the mask, and laughing and skitting. Like, there are no words. And if that is the case, I think that brings us back to the crux of the issue in all of our health crisis. So now we have CHI looking for an inquiry. We have Care Champions looking for an inquiry. I no doubt there'll be an inquiry. People looking for an inquiry around the hip dysplasia, around the spines, and all other areas around these missing children. And it's costing enormous money. But at the back of all of this, it's because there's a lack of accountability. There's a lack of transparency. You know, until we are actually able to get to a point that we're actually able to hold government to account, it shouldn't be about a Minister for Health is able to create so many billion into a specific system. It needs to look at the outcome to that. Mm-hmm. You know, there was an article today in the paper about the children with the spinal surgeries. And in that article, even though in January, the government gave a legal directive to the HSE that any child that was going to be left waiting more than 4 months was to be given an option on the treatment abroad scheme within 4 months to go to London or New York to have their surgery. And despite that legal directive, the numbers of children requiring surgery has continued to increase, and only 7 children have actually managed to get on this treatment abroad scheme. Now, personally, I've actually gone through the treatment abroad scheme because I'm waiting for a transplant. And I can understand why only 7 people have gone through it, because the HSE puts up so many shocking barriers in your way. Yeah. And in my case, because surgery, I had surgery done back when I was a teenager, which continued into my 20s, which destroyed me. This should never have been done. And it left me behind. I spent years where I wasn't able to eat. I was in a coma. And it's left me now that I have no abdominal wall at all. So basically, my bowel is sitting there. My organs are moving into I suppose like an extended hernia. And I was told there was nothing that could be done for me. So basically, all the surgery, when they did one surgery wrong, instead of stopping, they continued to operate.
They made it worse by
basically.
And now they're saying, well, there's nothing we can do. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so a number of years ago, I went. My consultant put me under a new consultant, and he told me, look, there's nothing we can do for you. And in fact, when you go into crisis, because I do go into crisis every so many years, when you go into crisis, he said, I'll never be able to operate on you because I won't be able to close you because you've got no muscle. You will literally be left there. You'll end up becoming palliative. And he said, like, you need a new abdominal wall, you need a new bowel. It's not possible. So when I came home and started doing my research, and I found, well, actually, this transplant has been done 50 times in the world, including in the UK, in Oxford. So I done all my research, and in fact, I contacted Oxford, and I got speaking to somebody on their team, and I got all my information together, and I went back to my consultant and said, look,
this is where I can do this in Oxford.
You can't undo the damage that was done to me, but this will give me some quality of life. Yeah. Long story short, the process to get the treatment abroad scheme approved, it was horrific. At this point, I had been very ill as well. But the silly mistakes, like the HSE was waiting for a form back from the consultant. The secretary didn't actually know how to fill out the form. I had to go and download it and highlight for her how to fill it out. 6 months later, I went back to the HSE. They hadn't received it. The secretary had forgot to send it. Yeah. The delays are stupid. But
so the healthcare system, Ireland, doesn't kill you, the bureaucracy will.
Yeah, but when I eventually got over for my assessments for a number of weeks, which took 2 years.
2 years. Wow.
2 years. And that was me pushing everything. And that was only because I ended up with sepsis early last year. And I lost the plot in A&E. But when I eventually got over there, and after 2 weeks of an unbelievable system, no comparison to here. But when I eventually got there, there was 20 consultants on my team. One of them happened to come in one day when I was having an infusion, and he said, where are your hospital notes, your operation notes? And I'm like, they're in the hospital. The hospital done my surgery. I've only ever been in one hospital. And he said that they had spoken to the secretary, and he said, in fact, so they got all my records after a fight from the hospital, but they got none of my so there's a specific note that's done after your surgery. Yeah. It's disappeared.
Okay, so they had nothing.
They made them all disappear of all the failures of the surgery. So that's what's happening.
That's what you're dealing with, yeah, and that's what people are dealing with, and that's the thing. I mean, if we, like you mentioned, Micheál Martin during lockdown, the height of COVID. People aren't allowed to see their loved ones. Fathers, grannies, mothers, sisters, brothers are dying on their own because families aren't allowed in. And he's down in Cork and this is not, there's not an attack on the Cork people. Relax. He's down in Cork at a boxing club having an event because his father was being honoured for some kind of thing that could have been done any time. Like any leader in a country would go, we can't do this now. It's COVID. We can do it next year. Like what? That story alone makes me understand who Micheál Martin is and why he was the way he was when he spoke to that woman, Antoinette. That action. I mean, it bears up exactly what we're saying. That happened. He's got away with it, and now he's the Taoiseach of the country. Al.
Yeah. Majella, I'm gasping after that story, but I can empathise with. I'll give you an anecdotal story, which is so my grandmother, who would have been pretty much my mother, right? So my final experience with her during COVID, she was in a nursing home. And I just give you a quick digress. So I worked on the COVID-19 task force. So I know, like, I worked with 1,500 epidemiologists. I built the model that predicted the spread of COVID, right? So I was in those rooms, and I can tell you the amount of conflict of interest in those task forces that were making the decision. I can say it broadly, without getting myself into difficulty, which I'm not afraid to do. I think we've had the record for the first defamation letter within 1 week of launching, right? So I'm not afraid of saying things as I see it. 90% of the people at a senior position had been conflicted. They were either involved in a PPE company or they had some kind of skin in the game in relation to COVID, and that's a whole different conversation. But my final experience was I had to go to the nursing home, put on PPE. My dying grandmother, who died within 10 days of me meeting her for the last time, thought I was a doctor. And I asked the head nurse, could I remove the mask for a moment? Because I knew it was goodbye, right? I knew by her. And he was like, no. So I can totally relate to that. And like, there's no words for that guy, honestly. Like, those leadership guys. And like, for Varadkar to come out, and by the way, I know him as well, so I can speak to it. I've met that guy on a few occasions. I can tell you what a load of bullshit that he could be told to do anything. That guy will do whatever the heck he wants, and nobody will tell him to do anything. That's it. So if he's batting it to Micheál Martin, that is just absolute bullshit. And it's the same thing as always. He's off selling books. Like, anybody who buys his stuff should be ashamed of themselves, right? They should be put out and burned in the fucking street as a bonfire. That's all it's good for, right? And even at that, you probably have to buy it to do that. So that's probably not a good idea. Maybe just boycott the guy, right?
Get some books and burn them. We don't want to incite violence.
Toilet paper or something, because, you know, there was craze over toilet paper during COVID. But I think I had a hypothesis on it, and I'm not sure if this is even practical, but I think for Ireland to change, and I'm just going to concentrate on Ireland because that's the one we're speaking to, is I think at some stage we need to look at as a group, is there a possibility or is there a way that from a civil action perspective, right, that we can start actually holding politicians personally accountable for the decisions that they make when in office, and that we should pursue them personally for damages, because I think that's the only thing that's going to get them to stop and think for a second, right? And I think they're under that veil of being protected, but there needs to be a precedent where if you behave outside of your office, right, it's an office, and this is what they keep just ignoring. Like, he has a responsibility to be accountable to the people that have elected him, regardless of what party they belong to. And he's responsibility under our constitution to represent citizens, right? And, you know, how many times do we have to have this conversation where it's failure after failure after failure? And it's not just COVID, right? It's prior to that, right? He was the Minister for Health. He was involved in the Celtic Tiger. He was involved in the crash. He was involved in the recession. So like, it's like we're just seem to be in this revolving door of the same politicians, the Nepo kids. They're coming in, they're taking over, they're giving their seats to their brothers, their cousins, their aunts, their sisters, their next door neighbors. Who fucking cares, right? But the reality is there has to be a logic prevail where everybody as a citizen of the country needs to get together and say, right, okay, we're not going to elect these guys anymore. And look, the only point I disagree with on it, which is a very passive point, is we don't have an opposition at the moment. Okay. And my empathy with you is, as a parent, you know, and I have 4 children, you're up against an uphill struggle trying to go against, like it's David and Goliath stuff, right? And there's no biblical ending here. You're going to get tired because you're swimming against the tide. Like these guys have unlimited resources, you know, they've got they control the media, so you're never going to get the outlet. They're never going to be called out, and you're going to continually find. But these guys are counting on everybody getting tired, and that's it. They're just going to keep batting it off.
And
off the ball.
I think you're onto something there, but I think with Care Champions and what you guys are doing, you've got numbers, you've got strength in numbers. So, you know, it's almost like save your energy. You're not going to get anywhere by calling for the government to do this or the opposition to do that. But you can do what you have been doing, which is your videos, your social media. You're telling people the truth, like coming on here and talking about. We have countless videos with people that Majella set up for me. You can watch them back on our YouTube channel of their experience in care homes. And we talk about COVID. The same things were happening. COVID are happening now.
If I can even make a suggestion, so what I'm actually suggesting is that we pool our resources together, get the intellectual currency into a room to say, right, is there some human rights process outside of Ireland and the European stage where we can actually start holding these guys accountable as individuals? Like if you go into hate crimes or, you know, war crimes, there's you know, if you go back in generations, right, when you got into Hague, you know, treaty in terms of investigations, like it's gone to that level of severity within the country. Like it's not like, okay, we've got a shitty government that's causing recessions or a shitty outcome for people. Like people are dying. We've no healthcare. Kids are going missing for years. You know, there's no support in place. The country is cratered, and right now it's divide and conquer. Right? It's like you're either left or you're right.
Yeah, and that's
it's all hate.
Suits
right?
the government.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think that there's got to be a way, and we go back to the care homes because I want to finish up in this, Majella, and thank you very much for your time. But the care homes run by a company, a French company, if you look at them not resourcing those properly, yet taking profits from the company for them, the dividends, you know, the shareholders taking money from it. If you're not investing in your company and people are dying in your company, but yet you're making money, but that money isn't available to stop those people from dying in your care. I mean, that to me, that's a big problem there. I mean, I'm not saying you're surely you're accessory to some kind of, you know, I mean, I'm not going to say, you know.
No, you are like, so like if you just
but I don't want to say, because I don't personally want to get in trouble, but like, surely I'm like, no, you're taking money out of a company that should be there to keep these people alive. That's a crime.
Yeah, but if you took that as height, so France, if they did that in France,
the France kicked them out.
They wouldn't kick them out.
France kicked them out.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is that
they'd be held to account.
Exactly.
They were thrown out. Yeah. This very company,
I didn't know that.
Were thrown out and aren't allowed to do business in France. And we're going, yeah, you're grand lads. This is not about bad custard and terrible jelly.
But this isn't just about Opria or the new name Opria, whatever it is.
What I'm saying,
this is about how our care systems are set up. So as it is right now, there is no regulation. So the problem that's happening with privatised care is they're allowed to set themselves up. All they have to do is meet the physical standards for HICWA to get a sign-off to be registered. That is all they need. Yeah. HICWA is not there to deal with
oversight. They've no chief, can't do anything.
So the problem is going right back to how the government, and at the end of the day, they may be private companies, but they are government funded, people who are on fair deal, etc. And they're allowed to set up without accountability.
Not even get into that.
So Majella, listen, we could talk forever. We'll run out of time, but we will have you back on again, and we will talk about doing something and trying to pool our resources and finding another way at it, so we're not just constantly hitting the brick wall of the government, who do not want and will not be held to account. Thanks very much for your time. Oh, actually, do you want to hang on there? I don't know. I hope you'll take this in good faith, because we do some comedy stuff here, and we use it to highlight some problems in the country. So it might seem a bit like bad taste. I hope it's okay. But we'll have a little listen to this. This is coming. Have you seen this?
Majella, what he's saying to us, we use parody to not get in trouble, to highlight.
Well, also, we're not poking fun at people. Listen. People have died.
Our lawyers are saying, right, we love the money, but stop getting in trouble.
This is This is, people have died, and I'm having a go at the, yeah. Anyway, Halloween is coming. Those theme parks. You go to those theme parks where there's zombies and people jump out at you, and this is one for, because the elderly, and the most vulnerable, they like Halloween too. So here's a theme park for them. Halloween. It's not just for young people, This October, why not treat your elderly loved ones to the ultimate horror experience? Scare Homes Ireland, where call buttons go unanswered and corridors are empty. Dine, if you dare, on our mystery meat stew. Beef, chicken, no one knows, not even the chef. And don't forget our ghost staff. So badly paid, so badly treated, they're dead inside. Scream all you like, the government can't hear you. Because nothing says Halloween like being locked away and forgotten forever. Scare Homes Ireland, putting the care into scare. Scare Homes, we'll take care of your loved ones. Scare Homes. Majella, I just want you to let me know that it's okay, that we're still friends.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Sadly, it's true. It's very well done. Yeah.
Very much. Majella, thanks very much. We'll talk again, and best of luck with your own personal health issues as well.
Oh yeah, I'm doing good at the minute. Yeah.
Okay, great. Will you
All right. Thank you.
Bye. Yeah, Scare Homes Ireland. I mean, funny
so scary. It's true.
Funny because it's true. I mean, like, that's a parody, but like,
how did you get Micheál Martin to act in that? He did a cameo, did he?
He'll do anything. He'll do anything. He'll do anything from.
Was that Simon Harrison in the kitchen?
Simon Harris directed.
Oh, you couldn't see because he did the Oasis.
Yeah, the Oasis cap on. Yeah. Yeah. Look, I mean, when you do a show like, look, Al, it's great to have you in studio.
Yes, good to be here.
But when you do a show like that, and you look at where we are, and you join the dots, because people don't join the dots anymore. When you join the dots of the children, of the parents looking for answers, of the hospitals, of the consultants, of the government, of our most vulnerable, all of these things are happening the same way. These are affecting every family in the country. How are we not acting more like French people and taking to the streets? Like, how are we so ambivalent? How are we so dead inside? We're not. Is it because we're so distracted by the fact that there's other, marches, far right, far left, all that kind of stuff? Is that, we're looking at a guy doing blackface? Is it all of that kind of stuff? Are we so distracted? Are we so soulless, dead inside? We don't believe there's another way to do this, that this is just happening.
There's no universal answer to that, because you've got groups, herd mentality, and individuals, right? But when you get to the point of it just feels unsurmountable. Like you could imagine somebody in the day to day where, either they've trying to support the family or support themselves, they're working. It's like, like life happens when they're busy making plans. I know that's a lighter quote from John Lennon, right? But like, that's the reality. Like, a lot of people don't have time left. And it's kind of, and then,
are you going to dedicate like 20 years of your life to fighting the government?
Because like they look at what happens to somebody who does stick their head up over the trench, just like the World War quote, stick your head over the trench and get shot, right?
Yeah, we look at the whistleblowers and how they're treated in this country, and we've spoken to many of them.
I mean, if you were to look at this from a sinister perspective, they've done a really good fucking job of keeping people controlled, right? So that's the reality. And then people are trying to break out of that, and then you've got, unfortunately, the paradox of the Irish mentality, which is, sure, it'll be grand. We're happy. Yeah. I'll get out on Friday, Saturday night, the weekend. Yeah. And the herd mentality is like, sure, what do you complain about that? Don't be so negative, right? And it is Stockholm syndrome, and it is, the frog in the hot water. Yeah. The temperature is being turned up all the time. It's not sudden.
We haven't noticed the temperature being turned up, and suddenly we're going, Jesus, it's warm in here, isn't it?
Well, it's like we're in like a pressure cooker of heat, right? Where it's pop the head up, you get fucking blown off the map, and I have a very specific issue with whistleblower, because I think that just like it's like the stitches get snitches
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah. No one
You know?
likes a rat, but actually, this is good for us.
Well, they're not the rat. The rats are the guys, the two-legged rats that are doing the fucking shit in the first place.
But we're
right?
believing the fact we're being told by the media, we're being told by the government that these guys are bad in some way, and also that there's certain lies being told by certain whistleblowers as well. But like, we need to look at these people and champion them and pay attention to what they're saying. Forget about like who you can vote for, who you can't for. Turn your focus and your energy towards what whistleblowers are saying. That's one thing you could do, because you can't do everything.
Well, the
but you can do
definition of
that.
insanity is trying the same thing you digested and expect a different result. So the reality is there has to be a change of tactic, and the people you're dealing with are not going to, you're not going to pull on the heartstrings of ethics or moral ground and empathy. And so that's gone. So you just have to stop that approach. And knows what affects the most: the pockets, their positions, power. So you have to find out who you're like. I'm a master chess player, right? I'll find out my opponent is the offensive, defensive, and I'll get to that point where I'll understand the game very quickly, and then your strategy changes. So you have to change your strategy. So if we keep going, please do the right thing.
You can't.
Please do the right thing. Oh, I'll shame them. Like, okay, I agree with Majella's point. She got some traction. She endorsed Micheál Martin, but the reality, he doesn't give a shit. Like,
that'll be yesterday's news.
Give her a ring and pacify her, and look.
She might make the late show, maybe.
So it's take away their position, like boycott the MSM, the mainstream, the legacy media, and I don't call them mainstream media anymore because they're full of crap, right? And if they're impacted by the financial position of those media outlets, somebody in a room somewhere is going to make a decision. We're not making money anymore. We got to do something different.
Boycott media. Only watch MOTH news.
Correct.
That's basically what he's saying.
Correct.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for your time.
That was a terrible plug. Shame on you.
listen, man. The way we're going, we don't need plugs. Everyone's going to be watching MOTH news.
We're shamelessly marketing today, guys. It's something we've never done before. What did I buy anyway? How do we commercialize this? Help! Telling the truth isn't cool. Nobody wants to pay for the truth. Anyway, yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Listen, thanks for coming, and good to have you in the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. And will I go there? Sure.
Can you guys vote? Make sure Keith brings me back again. I'm not sure he will after this.
Yeah, you're very welcome back. And look at the new studios. Jesus, we're going up in the world.
Yeah, the guys are rocking it, right?
There must be money somewhere.
We probably shouldn't tell him who they are. We shouldn't say where we are. We'll be doorstepped.
Well, I tell you what, I wouldn't do this if I lived in Ireland.
He lives in Ireland. We're in Ireland. We're in Dublin.
We're
around the corner from Leinster House.
We're underneath Leo Burdock's.
What's that hotel they all congregate in? What's that? The Bushels, is it?
Oh yeah.
14 euros for a shitty pot of tea. On tap. Credit.
Right, good luck. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next week.
And we're only messing with Micheál Martin. You're only a langer sometimes. Not.
Jesus. The whole knot thing is coming back, isn't it? Might as well start saying what's up. God. Right, we better go before. I think he's lost his mind, and he hasn't slept much.
I didn't have it to start with.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on YouTube and X and all the rest. And if you've got a story and you don't have a platform and no one will listen to you and you're banging your head against a brick wall, which most people are in Ireland at the moment, trying to get some attention, contact us and we will talk to you and put you on. We're the platform for you. Have a good evening.